Radhe Radhe. Today is Saturday, 14th December 2024. And here we are to present to you this recap video for today's Bhagavad Gita study session. As we continue along in chapter 10, we covered 3 verses today, after, of course, the usual recap quiz. So let's take a look at a summary of what we covered. As you'll see on the cover slide, we covered chapter 10, verses 11, 12, and 13. The recap quiz covering content from last week was for chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. As always, please take a look at the description for this video and go to the free community portal page where you'll get these slides you're seeing, this and other recap videos. In particular, the slides will have the quiz questions that you can look at multiple times and other reference material as well. So, with that, we get into today's content, starting off with chapter 10, verse 11. Tesham evanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayam yatma bhavastho jnana deepena bhasvata. So, chapter 10, verse 11 has the catchphrase ledges lamp. We saw in class, and we shall see here as well, why that might be the case. Let's look at the verse itself. So, Sri Krishna says, out of compassion for them, who those them are, we'll talk about that. Sri Krishna, who dwells within their hearts, destroys the darkness born of ignorance with the luminous lamp of knowledge. Let's first look at one or two important words. I think this one is very crucial. Anukampartham, out of compassion. It's made of anukampa and artham. So anukampartham, Sri Krishna says what he does is because it is out of compassion. So that's an important Sanskrit word or phrase to add to your dictionaries. And I think, we all know this. Dipena is to do with, light. It's to do specifically with the lamp. But let's try this. Atma Bhava. Because Sri Krishna reveals his location, it is within the hearts of those devotees. Atma Bhava, within their hearts. So what he does is out of compassion. And this is for who those they are. Remember, we talked in class about chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. Chapter 10, verse 9, last week, the people, the devotees who have their minds fixed on Sri Krishna and their lives surrendered to him, they remain ever contented in him. They get enlightened, they get bliss and satisfaction because they discuss Sri Krishna's glories, they converse about them, and remember the quiz question, the enumeration of the names, forms, virtues, etc. So those devotees who then also have their minds always united with Sri Krishna in loving devotion, those are the ones who get that gift. Again, in the quiz question, we talked about a holiday gift, and that gift is the divine knowledge by which they can attain Sri Krishna. And how, when he does that, today he explains in chapter 10, verse 11, he does it out of compassion for those devotees. And that process is he's actually sitting, dwelling in those hearts, in their hearts, and he destroys that darkness that is born of ignorance. How he destroys it is by providing that luminous lamp of knowledge, that divine knowledge he gives. That is that wisdom and knowledge that takes away the darkness, the ignorance in that soul. So Swamiji explains that here actually what Sri Krishna is doing is he is further elaborating on the concept of grace. We've heard many times, we talked about it in class, that grace, we've heard right from Swamiji, is made up of divine love, divine bliss, divine knowledge. These components, if anything, we might have material components at the current stage. We are aspiring to get all those divine components, and that truly will make us a recipient of Sri Krishna's grace. And how he does that, again, to repeat, is by destroying the darkness in our hearts, in the devotees' hearts, with that lamp of wisdom, lamp of knowledge. So we've seen many times the contrast between darkness and light, ignorance and wisdom. And indeed, darkness, we said, is to do with a lot of the material afflictions we have. For instance, we have seen in chapter 2 greed, lust, envy, anger, etc. All these that can lead to a person's downfall. We seek to go away from them, to rise above them, And that happens when God gives us his grace, and that is through his divine knowledge. And the real contrast that's happening is that we try to understand and appreciate God, but we are doing it currently with our material mind, material intellect, material senses. God is divine. Therefore, we need divine equipment, divine instruments to be able to actually fully see God and understand God and know God, KNOW. And that can happen only when He grants us that divine ability. What He does is, in fact, He confers, He gives or bestows upon us His divine Yogmaya energy to the soul. And He also then equips that soul with truly the divine mind, the divine intellect, the divine senses that will then help us to see God. In fact, we talked about gunas briefly as well. We've seen much earlier in the Bhagavad Gita. We shall see later in a specific chapter totally dedicated to gunas, a lot about them. But we do know there are the three gunas, tamo, rajo, and sattva. And the sattva gun is the one of goodness, but it's not, of course, the purest or the transcendental one. God's guna is known as Shuddha Sattva. We've seen before, so that's right here, Shuddha Sattva. That guna, that energy, that is only for God or the souls to whom He gives His divine grace. And that then, equipped with all these divine instruments, helps us truly be united with God. So, this is how, of course, God sitting within us, Paramatma, as that supreme soul, He is able to those eligible souls at the right time, give them that divine grace, which is this divine knowledge through that lamp of wisdom, that luminosity, right? We saw luminous is bhasvata in class, deepena is with the lamp, all that to take them away from darkness and ignorance. Let's take a look at the flyer for class we showed in class as well. So you now all know, or hopefully by the end of this recap video, the question here was, which ledge, in double quotes, which ledge might you find Sri Krishna's lamp dwelling upon? The catchphrase also, if you recall, was ledge's lamp. So now we make the connection. If you look at the flyer again, indeed, in terms of just the physical representation and also maybe some pun or humor, this is trying to represent a ledge, right? Ledge usually, the side of a window or some place for, putting things, maybe a desk as well. So if you see this, perhaps this ledge or desk, we have a lamp, we have, maybe sunglasses or glasses. We also see books here, ancient. They look like scriptures, perhaps. So, which ledge might you find Sri Krishna's lamp dwelling upon? The answer actually is knowledge. So, that's the pun there. This is the wisdom, the books, the scriptures, the knowledge. The lamp dwells upon that. It's the lamp of knowledge. It's a lamp dwelling on knowledge that Sri Krishna gives as a gift to certain devotees. And remember how he does it out of compassion. But see in the background, we have the heart. We have Sri Krishna dwelling in the heart, Paramatma, right? Sri Krishna in our hearts, in those devotees' hearts, out of compassion, grants them that lamp of knowledge, the lamp of wisdom through his grace. Next up, let us look at chapter 10, verses 12 and 13, which are combined in Swamiji's commentary. So, first chapter 10, verse 12, and then chapter 10, verse 13, one after the other. Arjuna Uvacha Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarshir Naradastatha Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishi Me. So, chapter 10, verses 12 and 13. Chapter 10, verse 12 has the catchphrase supreme superlatives. Chapter 10, verse 13 has the catchphrase profound proclamation. What do these two verses cover? They're long. Let's look at a couple of important Sanskrit words first. We may have seen this before, but let's look at Shashvatam. That is describing God, of course, as eternal. Many of you also know the soul is eternal. So that is Shashvatam. And then let's look at maybe this one, Bravishi. You are declaring. So Sri Krishna declares. So Bravishi, that is Arjun saying what Sri Krishna is declaring. So we can add those or revisit those in our Sanskrit dictionaries. Chapter 10, verses 12 and 13, they start off with supreme superlatives. So a list of a few superlatives, accolades, tributes that Sri Krishna gives to, Arjun gives to Sri Krishna. So he says Sri Krishna is the supreme divine personality. Sri Krishna is the supreme abode, the supreme purifier, the eternal God, the primal being, the unborn, and the greatest. That's just a few that Arjun states. And then he qualifies by saying that this is a profound proclamation that is coming from great sages before him, like Narad, Asit, Deval, Vyas, and so on. They have said it, they have proclaimed it, and now Arjun is getting to hear this being declared by Sri Krishna. So Swamiji presents this contrast that there is a misconception certain commentators have that really the supreme ultimate reality is only the formless aspect of God, and the ones that have, the manifestation and display as avatars are a step removed from God. That is not true. We know that or appreciate that and understand that with faith and knowledge and devotion. We also now hear and see Arjun stating that because he refutes those viewpoints. He clearly declares that Sri Krishna, of course, in his personal form, as an avatar, as Bhagwan, is also that supreme cause of all causes. He indeed is the supreme cause of all causes. So something important Swamiji points out. And then the second paragraph of the commentary has a lot of quotation attributed to these different sages, coming especially from the Mahabharata, to help establish the credibility of such statements. So Arjun has looked at chapter, Swamiji says the prior four verses. So chapter 10, verses 8, 9, 10, and 11. Thus far, he is now convinced about the supreme position of Sri Krishna. And so, with that, of course, he is also then stating that many of these sages, Narad, Asit, Deval, Vyas, they have all proclaimed that Sri Krishna is the supreme divine personality. So, to add to that validation, Swamiji quotes from the Bhishma Parva, one of the books of the Mahabharata, and also later from the Vana Parva, another book of the Mahabharata. So there are all these different, again, tributes, accolades, compliments, maybe appellations that are used for Sri Krishna, such as by sage Narad, sage Markandeya, sage Bhrigu, sage Vyas, of course, Ved Vyas. We have sage Angira, and of course Sage Asit, and Sage Deval. So many of these sages, I did encourage in class that you're welcome to take a look and read up a little about them if you like. But all these, of course, they amount to the same summary, different words and phrases, different labels. But Sri Krishna is the supreme ultimate truth, the supreme divine personality, God, truly, truly the unborn, the eternal, the greatest, supreme. So that's the essence here for chapter 10, verses 12 and 13. Just a reminder, as we mentioned, of course, later today will be the Bhagavad Gita Parayan, culminating the 4 days of festivities at the Radha Krishna Temple of Dallas in Allen. So you can join in person or online. So certainly try to see how much of that you can make. As I mentioned in class, it really has a profound, to use that word, impact on each of us to be able to chant some or all of that Bhagavad Gita. So later today will be all 700 shlokas in commemoration of Bhagavad Gita Jayanti, which was earlier this week on Wednesday, 11th December 2024. With that, we get to the end of this recap video. As we mentioned, stay tuned via the usual, communication formats, the portal, social media, etc. And we'll keep you posted on when we next meet. Perhaps realistically, it may be in the new year, but till then, every day continues to be for each of us another step along our spiritual journeys. So we all aspire towards that goal of getting that divine knowledge, that gift from Sri Krishna. And presumably, you can all continue to read, study, practice, chant, recite, whatever activities they are that are related to the Bhagavad Gita, and keep on blossoming. Again, we'll stay in touch. See you next time. Until then, thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.